My name is Solène Val, 34 years old. The casket is small, too small, and that's the first coherent thought that holds long enough to sting as they lower my 9-year-old son into the ground. My hands won't stop trembling. I press them flat to my black dress, lace imprinting my palms, then lace against air again when the tremor returns. Tears run a disciplined path down my face, quiet, constant, as if my body has accepted this as its only useful function now. The pulley's whir is clinical, a sound with no conscience. Someone clears his throat, another shifts on wet grass. The cemetery worker glances at me for a signal I don't have the authority to give. I'm not ready. I'll never be ready. 8 months ago, the doctors named the monster stealing my boy's strength, a rare blood disorder. Naming it didn't tame it. Caleb took the diagnosis like a knight taking a quest, his small jaw set, his eyes bright, with a bravery that embarrassed my adult hope. "Will it hurt?" he'd asked, voice steady. "Sometimes," the doctor said, honest and tired. After the first week of treatment, after the first night I slept upright in a chair because I was afraid to miss the sound of his breathing, Caleb patted my wrist and whispered, "I'm okay, Mom. Don't worry." He never liked it when I pretended to be brave. He could always tell when I wasn't. The minister's words pass through me like wind. I catch fragments. Beloved child, rest, mercy, and none of them hold. What holds is the smell of rain and cut grass. What holds is the small action figure in my pocket with the paint rubbed off the cape, his favorite. The one that rode shotgun through transfusions and fevers and superhero missions up and down hospital hallways. I've been clutching it so hard my fingers ache. "Are you doing all right, dear?" Angela's voice is a soft knock on the walls I keep erect. She is my elderly neighbor, the one who brought casseroles without opinions, sat with Caleb so I could shower, and never once made his illness her inconvenience. Her hand lands light as a leaf on my sleeve. I nod because anything more would splinter me. "They didn't come," I hear myself say, though I hadn't planned to speak. The words have a stunned birth, as if surprised to exist. Not one of them. Angela looks at the road as if my parents and my sister might yet appear, breathless, contrite. Her eyes return to mine and hold there with a steadiness I borrow for a moment. I pull out my phone. I don't mean to. It's habit, the same reflex that made me check Caleb's oxygen saturation every 15 minutes for months. Instagram loads immediately. A golden room, a champagne pyramid, the Grand Horizon Hotel tagged in elegant font. Victoria, my sister, smiles at the camera, diamond carved into starlight on her finger. Our parents flank her, beaming. "She said yes," the caption sings. The timestamp is a scalpel, 20 minutes ago, as the casket lowered. The screen vibrates in my hand. A text from my mother. "We need to talk. Bring the trust documents tomorrow." I read it twice because I must be misunderstanding. Then a second text arrives before the ache can form a thought. "Don't be dramatic, Solène. This is important for the whole family." The whole family. I look at the casket as if it might correct me. I look at the grass, the hole, the ropes. I look at the worker shifting his weight, waiting. I look at Angela, who doesn't look away. Something clean and cold moves through my grief, a clear river slicing silt. There is a shape in this I can recognize, and it isn't compassion. "Take your time," Angela murmurs to the worker. He nods and steps back with a reverence he didn't learn from my blood relatives. My fingers find the action figure. I kneel and place it on the casket's lacquered surface. "I'll protect what's yours," I whisper, a promise I can still keep. As I stand, my knees unlock with a click that sounds louder than I intend. I think of the day Ethan, my ex-husband, set up the college trust fund before an overseas transfer. "If anything ever happens, you'll be the residual beneficiary," he'd said, too practical for superstition. "I know you'll honor his memory." I didn't know his words would ripen this quickly into relevance. Apparently my family did. The drive home is a study in restraint. The wipers squeak a metronome. The drizzle insists on existing. Somewhere between the turn to our old church and the cracked billboard for Wilson's Paint and Tile, I make a decision that doesn't feel like a decision so much as a reorientation. If grief is the ocean, resolve is the coastline that refuses to move. The next morning is gray again, as if the weather can't bear to contradict me. I pull into my parents' circular drive behind a silver BMW I know is Melissa's. Of course she's here. The front door opens before I reach it. My father stands like a doorman to a place I can't afford, posture erect, concern carefully ironed onto his features. Solène, he says, like a man who has practiced sorrow in mirrors. Come in. We've been waiting. The living room's cream sofa is a white flag no one intends to wave. Victoria sits on its edge, legs crossed at the ankle, every hair in its assigned place. Melissa perches beside her, hands around a mug she isn't drinking, eyes skittering. My mother stands near the mantel, palm resting on a framed photo that once meant something uncomplicated. No one says Caleb's name. No one says they're sorry. My father gestures at a mahogany coffee table where a folder lies open like a trap you pretend isn't there. We need to reallocate the trust with Victoria as trustee, he says, voice crisp, eyes sliding over me as if I am a page to initial. Sign here and here. I don't reach for the pen. What are you talking about? You're not in a position to manage this, Victoria says, leaning forward as if voicing something benevolent. We're trying to help. The responsible thing is to put temporary control with someone stable. Stable, my mother repeats, the word a pearl she rolls on her tongue. Remember when you wanted to open that boutique after college? We saved you from that impulsive mistake. Melissa glances up, meets my eyes, looks away. There's a flinch there I recognize. The pre-betrayal tremor. She has always hated conflict and loved proximity to comfort. I can already feel how her testimony is being drafted in rooms that smell like lemon polish. My father taps a stack of papers with a fountain pen. Ethan's lawyer agrees this is prudent, given your mental state. The phrase is a practiced dart. I pick up a page at random because surrendering to randomness is safer than giving them the order they want. Mental competency evaluation stares back in formal type. Another page, printouts on trust law, bears a date from 14 months ago, the week Caleb was admitted for his first transfusion. How long have you been planning this? My voice is quiet in that way that frightens better than thunder. While I was sleeping in a chair next to him, were you researching how to empty his future if he didn't have one? You're exaggerating again, Victoria says, gaze slicing. This is exactly why we're concerned. If you refuse to sign, my father says, sliding out a fresh document like a magician revealing a card that was always the card, we'll petition for guardianship. The court will understand that grief has compromised your judgment. It happens then. The rearrangement of rooms in my memory. My mother's airy dismissals. It's probably just anemia, darling. My father's irritation at specialists. Doctors prey on anxious mothers. Victoria's hospitals are depressing whenever I asked her to visit. The pattern sharpens into a blueprint drawn for a house I'd never live in. A corner of paper sticks out beneath the legal stack. I tug it free. A contractor's rendering of a kitchen with a waterfall island, a home theater, a pool outlined with little cartoon swimmers. Budget notes, $200,000 remodel. It's almost funny. You didn't come to the hospital once, I say, and the steadiness in my tone surprises me. Not when he lost his hair, not when he learned to be brave about needles, not when they told us the treatment was failing. We all grieve differently, Victoria says, reaching for poise and catching something brittle. Some of us just handle it better. A silence develops a spine. My father clears his throat. We have timelines, Solène. Robert's development bridge needs resolution within 60 days. Your cooperation would make everything simpler. Ah, there it is. They need the trust to save a wedding date, a reputation, a balance sheet. They need it quickly. I gather the papers and place them back in the folder, a neatness I hope communicates contempt. I need time to think, I say, moving toward the door. Don't walk away from this table, my father says, the old edge cutting through his tempered civility. It is the voice of childhood, the one that taught me that my objections were clutter. I close the door behind me with a care that feels like violence withheld. In the car, I rest my forehead on the steering wheel and exhale until the breath is a rag. My phone buzzes. Angela. How did it go? I'm here. Another call flashes. Ethan's parents. We just heard, Martha says, voice already cracking, grief a language she doesn't perform but speaks. We love that boy. George's voice is sandpaper. We would have been there if we'd known. We were overseas. We're so sorry. When I hang up, I remember a name Ethan pressed into my palm like a spare key. Richard Donovan. If you ever need help with the trust, he'd said, he's the one you call. I dial. Mr. Donovan's office, a receptionist answers, kind without being fragile. How may I help you? My name is Solène Vale, I say, and my voice no longer shakes. I need to speak with him about the Caleb Vale Trust. It's urgent. Come in this afternoon, she replies. He'll clear his schedule. I pocket my phone and stare through the windshield at a sky trying to decide whether to rain or relent. For the first time since the graveside, the fog inside me thins enough to reveal an outline. If they want a war over my son's legacy, I won't fight it with panic. I will fight it with paper, with witnesses, with truth. I drive away from my parents' house, their hedges trimmed into obedience. In my pocket, the little action figure presses against my thigh, a ridiculous, holy weight. I'll protect what's yours, I tell the road, the rain, the part of me that still kneels by a small casket. I promise. Somewhere behind me, a notification lights up on a screen I will not open. Somewhere ahead, a door in a law office is already being held for me. Between those two places, a new terrain rises, not the landscape of a mother begging for grace, but of a woman learning to wage a clean war. And I suspect, no, I know, they've been planning longer than they admit, which is fine. I've started planning too. The drizzle hasn't stopped. By the time I park outside Donovan and Associates, the rain has sharpened into a needle-fine mist, coating everything with a sheen that makes the city look more honest than it likes to be. My reflection in the office's glass doors startles me. Eyes rimmed red, lips dry and cracked, hair pinned back with the desperation of someone who forgot how to care about appearances. Still, I push through. The receptionist recognizes me from the morning call. Ms. Vale, Mr. Donovan will see you now. Her voice is warm without pity, and I cling to that small mercy as I follow her down a corridor lined with law books. Richard Donovan is older than I expected, silver-haired, eyes clear and sharp behind understated glasses. He rises when I enter, extends a hand that is firm but not overpowering. Mrs. Vale, please have a seat, and I am truly sorry for your loss. Thank you. My voice betrays me, breaking on the second word. I set the folder on his desk with deliberate care. This is everything I have about Caleb's trust. He opens it, scanning with the speed of someone who has read thousands of families into existence and watched hundreds collapse over commas. His silence stretches until my throat aches. My family wants me to sign it over, I blurt, hating how pleading it sounds. They say I'm not stable. That grief makes me unfit. His gaze lifts, piercing. They didn't attend the funeral, did they? The question lands with the precision of someone who already knows the answer. No, my sister had her engagement party the same day. He removes his glasses, pinches the bridge of his nose. I remember when your ex-husband set this up. Ethan was meticulous and very clear. From his desk drawer, he pulls a separate manila file, Ethan's handwriting scrawled across the tab. I stare. You kept his records? I keep everything, Donovan says, flipping it open. Here, Ethan's statement of intent, notarized. The words blur as I read, Caleb's name written in his father's steady hand. If the worst should happen, this trust is to provide for my son. Should he not survive, the beneficiary shall be his mother, Solène Vale, who has sacrificed her career and life to care for him. Tears fog my vision. Ethan had prepared for what I couldn't bear to consider. They can't touch this legally, Donovan says, voice even. But law and family aren't the same currency. They'll try other routes. Guardianship, claims of incompetence, public opinion. They've already started. I tell him about the documents my father shoved toward me, the blueprints for Victoria's remodel, Melissa's eyes darting away like she'd already chosen sides. He listens without interruption. When I finish, he leans back, steepling his fingers. Then you need to decide whether you want to survive their attack or destroy it. The word destroy hums in my bones, foreign and terrifying, and exactly right. The next morning dawns brighter, almost mocking. I drive to my parents' colonial-style home, each mile like tightening rope. Angela texts, I can come with you if you want backup. I text back, no, I need to face them alone. The house looms as it always has, shutters pristine, lawn manicured to military precision. I've always hated how perfect it looks from the outside, when inside it smells of disappointment and silences that lasted for years. Melissa's silver BMW is parked crookedly in the driveway, as if even her car is nervous. The front door opens before I knock. My father again, face composed, voice too smooth. Solène, come in. We've been waiting. The living room looks staged for a magazine shoot. Cream sofa, crystal vase with fresh lilies, a fire crackling though it's warm outside. Victoria sits perched like royalty, legs crossed at the ankle, blonde hair sculpted. Melissa is beside her, shoulders hunched, eyes glued to her manicure. My mother stands at the mantel, her fingers grazing a family portrait where all of us are smiling. A photo op that has always felt more like a mask. No one mentions Caleb. No one acknowledges what we buried yesterday. My father clears his throat, businesslike. We need to reallocate the trust. Victoria will act as trustee. It's best for everyone. He slides the folder forward. Sign here and here. The room tightens. What are you talking about? I manage. You're in no condition to manage this kind of money, Victoria says, leaning forward, her tone honeyed poison. We're trying to help. My mother's voice follows, silk draped over steel. You've always been impulsive. Remember that boutique idea? Thank God your father stopped you. I glance at Melissa, desperate for a flicker of the girl who once held my hair back after high school parties, who slept on my floor after my divorce. But her gaze drops. She's already surrendered. We spoke with Ethan's lawyer, my father adds, tapping the papers. Given your mental state, he agrees this is prudent. My pulse spikes. I flip a page. Petition for guardianship. Another. Trust law research dated 14 months ago, back when Caleb was first admitted. You've been planning this since he got sick. My voice is low, lethal. You're exaggerating again, Victoria sighs, rolling her eyes. This is exactly why we're concerned. If you don't sign, my father says, mask slipping, we'll petition the court. Grief has compromised your judgment. That's when I see it all differently. The dismissals, the minimizations, the sudden absence when hospital visits became routine. They weren't careless. They were deliberate. A corner of paper sticks out beneath the legal stack. I tug it free. Renovation plans, a $200,000 kitchen remodel, a pool, a home theater. You never visited him once, I say, my voice like glass. Not when he lost his hair. Not when the doctors said he wouldn't make it. Not once. We all grieve differently, Victoria replies, her patience fraying. Some of us just handle it better. Silence coils. My father's jaw tightens. Robert's company has deadlines. The wedding needs funding. We can't wait. Sign, Solène. The truth shatters any lingering delusion. This isn't concern. It's desperation. I close the folder with deliberate care, stand, and move to the door. I need time, I say, though what I mean is, I need an army. Don't walk away from this table, my father snaps, the old authority sharp and cold. But I do. I step into the sunlight, folder clutched to my chest. My phone buzzes. A text from Angela. I'm outside if you need me. Another from Ethan's parents. We loved him. We'll help however we can. And for the first time in months, a strange clarity slices through the grief. They are not family. Not anymore. Whatever this is, it won't end at their polished coffee table. It will end in a place where truth has a chance to matter. I slide into my car, hands steady for once, and whisper to the empty seat beside me, I'll protect you, Caleb, I swear. The next morning, sunlight forces its way through the blinds as if trying to remind me that the world hasn't ended. My body disagrees. I wake with the weight of Caleb's absence pressing into my chest, heavier than any blanket. But beneath the grief, something colder has settled overnight. Resolve. I brew coffee I don't drink. Stare at the black swirl in the cup like it might yield answers. Angela texts early. I'm bringing soup later. You don't need to face this day on an empty stomach. My phone buzzes again. Ethan's parents. I hesitate before answering. Solène, Martha says, her voice breaking into static over the line. We just got home last night. We had no idea the funeral was happening. We're so sorry. George takes the phone. We love that boy, you know that. And we'll do whatever it takes to make sure his memory is honored. Their grief doesn't feel rehearsed. It's jagged, unfinished. Unlike the smooth performances I endured yesterday. Thank you, I whisper, my throat raw. I think I'll need your help. By mid-afternoon, I find myself in Donovan's office again. The place smells faintly of old leather and lemon polish. The books along the walls seem to watch me, spines lined in judgment and precedent. Richard gestures me into the same chair as yesterday. I've read through everything, he says, tapping the file I left behind. Your ex-husband was precise. The trust is airtight. They have no legal claim. Then why am I still terrified? Because law and family are different battlefields. His voice is calm, but his eyes are sharp. Legally, you're untouchable. Personally, they'll try to make you doubt yourself until you surrender. Guardianship petitions, rumors about your mental state, anything to paint you as unstable. They already accused me of being impulsive, said grief makes me incompetent. He nods, unsurprised. They'll use that line until it bleeds. But remember, you don't have to prove perfection. You only have to prove that you are the intended beneficiary, which Ethan made abundantly clear. I lean forward. How do we fight back? 2 ways. 1, build evidence of your role in Caleb's care. Hospital records, witness statements, financial receipts, everything. 2, expose their motives. Prove this isn't about protecting you. It's about funding their own lives. Images flood my mind. Victoria's remodel plans, my mother's pearl-clutching performance, my father's deadlines. Melissa, staring at her manicure while I begged for loyalty. They've been planning this since Caleb first got sick, I murmur. Richard studies me for a long beat. Then the question isn't whether you can stop them. The question is whether you want to survive this or destroy it. The word lingers in the room like smoke. Destroy. I swallow hard. I don't know if I have the strength. He leans back. I think you already do. You just don't recognize it yet. That night, Angela brings soup in a dented thermos and insists on staying until I eat. She watches me with eyes that know too much. You went to them, didn't you? She says finally. I nod. They had papers ready. Guardianship petitions. They said I'm unfit, that Victoria should control everything. Angela's jaw tightens. Of course they did. I saw this coming the day Caleb got his diagnosis, the way your mother sighed when you told her, the way Victoria complained about hospitals being too depressing. They didn't want to face it, so they planned for the aftermath instead. Her words cut deep because they ring true. I don't know if I can fight them. They're my family. Angela reaches across the table, grips my hand. Family isn't who shares your blood, Solène. It's who shows up, and from where I stand, you already know who your family is. Her hand is warm, grounding. For the first time in days, my breath comes steady. The following morning, I sift through Caleb's medical files, stacking appointment summaries, insurance appeals, discharge instructions. Each paper feels like a scar, a wound recorded in clinical terms, but together, they're proof. I was there, always. A notification pings on my phone. Melissa has posted a photo from a wine bar, captioned New Beginnings. My stomach churns. I picture her at my parents' table, silent as they cornered me. How long has she been part of this? I scroll further. A tagged post reveals her with Victoria last month, arms linked, glasses raised. The betrayal sharpens into something almost metallic in my mouth. My phone buzzes again, but this time it's Angela. They're going to try to make you doubt yourself. Don't let them. Write down everything. Dates, times, who was there, who wasn't. I grab a notebook and begin scribbling. Transfusions, fevers, nights in the hospital chair, every time I begged my parents to visit and got excuses instead. The list stretches across pages. My grief transforms into a timeline, an indictment. By evening, Richard calls. I've scheduled a preliminary consultation with Ethan's parents. They're willing to testify about his intent when setting up the trust. That means everything, I say quietly. They also mentioned something else, he adds. Apparently your parents reached out to them months ago, asking questions about the trust. My grip on the phone tightens. So they knew. They were circling even before Caleb passed. Yes, he pauses. Solène, they won't stop. This isn't a one-time confrontation. It's a campaign. I look at the stacks of papers on my dining table, Angela's journals beside them, my own notes growing into a ledger of truth. Then I'll campaign back, I whisper. That night, I sit in Caleb's room. The glow-in-the-dark stars on his ceiling still shine faintly, a universe suspended above an empty bed. I trace his drawings taped to the wall. Superheroes, rocket ships, smiling stick figures labeled me plus mom. I take out the little action figure again, the one I laid on his casket, the one I retrieved when regret burned hotter than grief. I hold it against my chest. They think I'm weak, I tell the silence. They think I'll break, but I won't. Not now. The silence doesn't answer, but somewhere inside a spark catches. Tomorrow, the war begins. 2 days later, the rain has cleared. Sunlight streams across Riverside Coffee's glass facade, too bright for the weight in my chest. I choose a corner table near the window, the kind that offers both visibility and escape. The manila envelope sits in front of me, edges worn from my grip. Inside, Ethan's notarized statement, hospital appointment records, and screenshots of Victoria's engagement party, the party that happened while I buried my son. Richard's advice hums in my memory. Public places discourage scenes. Control the narrative from the start. I ordered tea I don't plan to drink, just to look less like I'm here for war. The doorbell chimes. They enter together, a procession of polished betrayal. Victoria first, sunglasses oversized, designer heels clicking. My parents behind her, posture stiff, expressions set in concerned neutrality. Melissa trails last, head slightly bowed, as if hoping invisibility could excuse complicity. They don't order drinks. They don't ask how I'm holding up. They sit like shareholders preparing to oust the weakest partner. Victoria places her handbag on the table like a gavel. So, you've signed the papers? She reaches instinctively for the envelope. I knew you'd be reasonable. I rest my palm on the envelope, pinning it. Before we talk about papers, I want to know why none of you came to Caleb's funeral. My mother sighs, the kind of sigh that signals boredom rather than regret. Solen, we've been over this. The engagement was planned months ago. We couldn't cancel everything. It was your grandson's funeral, I reply, quiet enough to make her lean in. We grieved in our own way, my father says, voice clipped. His eyes dart to nearby tables, conscious of listeners. I slide out a stack of photos, one by one, Victoria in her glittering dress, champagne glass raised, my parents flanking her, smiles wide, Melissa laughing in the background, all time-stamped during the hours I was lowering my son into the ground. While I was at the cemetery, I say evenly, this is what you were doing. Heads turn at nearby tables. A barista pauses mid-swipe of a counter. Victoria's face flushes, the first crack in her perfect veneer. You're taking those out of context. Out of context? My voice sharpens. Tell me, what context makes this acceptable? Silence. The kind that thickens, heavy enough to bend spines. I pull out Ethan's notarized statement next, the words highlighted in yellow. Residual beneficiary shall be his mother, Solen Vale, in recognition of her sacrifices. Ethan was very clear, I say. This trust is Caleb's legacy, mine to protect. My father leans forward, hand outstretched. Let me see that. I pull it back. No. Victoria's composure fractures further. You don't deserve that money. You'll just waste it. Her voice rises, drawing more eyes from customers. Lower your voice, my mother hisses, but it's too late. People are listening. I hold her gaze. Why, Victoria? Afraid they'll hear how you tried to rob your grieving sister? Afraid they'll know you skipped your nephew's funeral for champagne and diamonds. Victoria stands abruptly, her chair scraping across the floor. This is ridiculous. We're trying to help you. I don't need your kind of help, I reply, gathering the papers into the envelope. I'm not signing anything, ever. My father's tone drops, low and dangerous. You're making a mistake, Solen. We can make things very difficult for you. I meet his eyes, the way a soldier studies the barrel of a gun. You already have, my entire life, but not anymore. I stand, envelope clutched tight, and walk out. The murmurs of the cafe follow me, whispers of strangers who have just witnessed the perfect family's cracks. Outside, Angela waits in her Buick across the street, window rolled down. Her eyes scan my face as I slide into the passenger seat. You stood up to them, she says softly, a smile tugging at her mouth. Good for you. My phone buzzes. Richard. How did it go? He asks when I answer. They showed their true colors, I tell him. My voice doesn't tremble this time. Good, he says. Now we prepare for what comes next. They'll escalate. As Angela drives us away, the cafe fading in the rearview mirror, I glance at Caleb's photo clipped to my dashboard. His smile beams back, defiant and brave. First battle's done, buddy, I whisper, but the war's just starting. Richard's office smells like cedar and old books, the kind of place where battles are drafted with paper instead of swords. It's been 3 days since the confrontation at Riverside Coffee, and already my family has shifted from persuasion to pressure. Anonymous calls at midnight, a suspicious inquiry to Caleb's old hospital about treatment summaries. A neighbor mentioned seeing my father outside my house, pretending to check his watch like he just happened to be there. Richard spreads folders across the polished desk. We're going to build 2 walls, Solen. one of evidence and one of intent. They can't scale both. He points to a stack of medical records. This shows your presence. Every appointment, every treatment decision. You documented everything? I nod, sliding over my calendar, its squares filled with cramped handwriting. Transfusions, oncology consults, emergency fevers, follow-ups. I never missed one. Good. He gestures to another pile. Now, Angela's journals, daily notes of her visits, independent corroboration. Angela, seated beside me, adjusts her glasses and lays down 3 worn notebooks. I wrote it all down. Every meal I brought, every night she stayed at the hospital, every time I watched Caleb so she could shower. Richard smiles faintly. That's gold. I exhale, tension loosening from my shoulders just slightly. What about intent? He opens another file, screenshots from Victoria's Instagram, blueprints for her remodel, a budget with numbers circled in red. This, he says, tapping the plans, is why they want control. We'll contrast your sacrifices with their spending. The judge won't miss the difference. I study the blueprints, rage simmering beneath my ribs. They were designing waterfalls for a pool while Caleb was hooked to IVs. Angela lays a hand on mine. Let them build their castles in sand. You're building something stronger. That night, I spread documents across my dining table, the wood disappearing under evidence. Receipts for medications, hospital bills, insurance denials. I fought through hours on hold, letters from Caleb's teachers, praising his resilience and noting how I attended every meeting. My phone buzzes, Melissa. Against better judgment, I open it. I didn't want this, Solène. But they're right. You can't handle everything alone. Just sign. It'll be easier. Easier. The word slices. I picture her laughing beside Victoria at that wine bar, arms linked. My oldest friend, rewriting herself as my judge. I type back before I can stop myself. You held my hand through my divorce. You promised you'd never leave me. Where were you when he was dying? The message shows read, but no reply comes. Silence, heavier than betrayal. 2 mornings later, Richard calls. Ethan's parents are flying in. They'll testify about his intentions when he created the trust. That's an anchor. Do you think it'll be enough? Not yet. They'll play dirty, Solène. They'll try to frame you as unstable. We need to anticipate that. I did fall apart sometimes, I admit. I cried in hospital hallways. I forgot to eat. What if they use that? They will, Richard says calmly, and we'll counter it. Falling apart in grief isn't incompetence, it's humanity. We'll show the distinction. Angela drops by in the evening, journals stacked in her arms. She sets them on the table like sacred offerings. I wrote everything down. The nights you refused to leave Caleb's side. The mornings you staggered to the hospital after 2 hours sleep. You weren't unstable, Solène. You were relentless. Her eyes shine with quiet fury. Don't let them convince you otherwise. For a moment, I let myself believe her. Later, I sit in Caleb's room, the air still carrying faint echoes of his laughter. I run my fingers across the glow-in-the-dark stars on his ceiling. My heart aches, but beneath it burns something sharper. They're trying to erase you, buddy, I whisper into the quiet. Erase what we fought for. But I won't let them. Not now. Not ever. I clutch his action figure against my chest, grounding myself in its chipped plastic courage. Downstairs, my phone buzzes again. A message from an unknown number. If you don't sign, we'll take everything through court. You'll lose more than money. No signature, but I know whose fingers typed it. I stare at the screen until the words blur, then delete the message. If they think threats will break me, they've miscalculated. Because grief may have hollowed me out, but in that hollow space, something new has taken root. Steel, sharpened by loss. Tomorrow I'll meet Richard again. And this time I won't feel like the client begging for rescue. I'll feel like a woman preparing for war. The sheriff's knock comes earlier than expected. Too early for coffee, too early for my nerves to steady. I open the door to find his blank face, the envelope already extended. Ms. Vale, you've been served. The manila packet feels heavier than paper has any right to be. Inside, emergency petition for guardianship. My stomach knots as I scan the signatures. My parents, Victoria, and Melissa. Melissa. Her affidavit is 3 pages of betrayal, documenting every fragile moment of the past 8 months. She writes of late-night phone calls when I sobbed about Caleb's fevers, of days I forgot to eat, of the time I mixed up his medication schedule and panicked until the nurse corrected me. Every weakness cataloged, polished into proof that I am unfit, I read the words twice, hands trembling. She has become unstable, paranoid, incapable of making sound decisions. Paranoid, unstable, incapable, words that sound like bars sliding shut. Angela arrives minutes later, finds me at the table surrounded by papers. Her eyes skim the affidavit, her mouth tightening. "She's weaponized your grief," Angela says, voice low with fury. "Melissa saw you at your most human moments and turned them into ammunition." My throat is raw. The worst part? None of it's a lie. I did call her at 3 a.m. I did break down in hospital hallways. I did forget to eat. Angela sets her hand over mine, firm. That's not incompetence. That's love stretched past its limits. Any mother would crack under that weight. The difference is you kept going. At Richard's office, the war table is already set. Affidavits, hospital records, financial statements. He adjusts his glasses, eyes cold. They're moving faster than I thought. Melissa's testimony adds weight, but it also exposes them. She was your closest friend. Her betrayal shows orchestration. I drop Melissa's affidavit on the pile. It hurts worse than my parents. She was supposed to be my sister in everything but blood. She's also compromised, Richard says. Her divorce, her financial troubles. Victoria probably dangled security in front of her. My jaw tightens. So I'm currency. Your leverage, Richard corrects. But leverage works both ways. We'll dismantle her credibility. We'll use Angela's journals to counter her claims. We'll present testimony from Caleb's doctors, his teachers, even your neighbors. Every witness will paint you as steadfast, not unstable. I nod, trying to believe him. But Melissa's words echo, acidic. The escalation doesn't stop there. That evening, I receive a call from my former supervisor at the marketing firm. "Solène, your sister reached out. She asked if you ever showed signs of emotional instability at work. What's going on?" I grip the phone tighter. She's building a case. "They're dragging your career into this," my supervisor says, voice edged with outrage. "For the record, you were one of the most reliable employees I ever had. If they try to use me, I'll testify for you." Relief mixes with shame. Every phone call feels like a rescue mission now. 2 days later, I receive confirmation of my deepest fear. Someone accessed Caleb's hospital records without authorization. A nurse I know texts me, "Victoria used an outdated emergency contact form. She has everything." I show Richard the message. He exhales sharply. "That's a serious privacy violation. We'll file a motion immediately. But it tells us something. They're desperate. They're scouring your life for scraps to make you look unfit." My chest tightens. They'll twist everything. Every moment I cried. Every time I faltered. "And we'll expose their twisting," Richard replies firmly. That night, sleep evades me. I wander into Caleb's room, the stars on his ceiling still glowing faintly. I pick up his favorite stuffed dinosaur, threadbare from hospital nights. I hold it against my chest. Melissa's voice invades my thoughts. She became paranoid, incapable of sound decisions. I whisper into the silence, "Was I paranoid, buddy? Or was I just the only one fighting for you?" The stuffed dinosaur offers no reply, but the memory of Caleb's small hand squeezing mine answers louder than words. "I'm okay, Mom. Don't worry." I close my eyes, let the memory anchor me. The next morning, Angela shows up with a stack of journals I hadn't seen before. "I found more," she says, laying them on the table. "Every time I came over, every time you fell asleep in a chair and I covered you with a blanket, it's all here." I flip through the pages. Dates, times, observations, written in neat cursive. March 12th. Solène hasn't left the hospital in 48 hours. Caleb's fever spiked. She stayed awake all night. April 3rd. She cried when the doctor said the marrow treatment failed, but she never left Caleb's side. Tears sting my eyes. "Angela, you saved me, more than once." She clasps my hands. "Don't let them make you doubt yourself. That's their only weapon, your doubt." Her words hit deeper than she knows. Because in truth, the doubt is louder than any accusation. Late that evening, Richard calls with finality in his tone. "They've filed for an emergency hearing, tomorrow. They're arguing you're mentally unfit to manage the trust, or yourself." My chest constricts. "Tomorrow?" "Yes, but we're ready. We have the journals, the medical records, Ethan's notarized statement, and the recordings you made at the coffee shop." I glance at the manila envelope on my counter, Caleb's photo clipped to the front. My son's smile beams back, defiant against hospital walls. "I'll be there," I say, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. Good, Richard replies, because tomorrow, Solène, everything shifts. Either they break you in court, or you break their story for good. I hang up, clutch the stuffed dinosaur tighter, and whisper to Caleb's photo. Tomorrow's for you, buddy. For your legacy. For the truth. And for the first time since the funeral, I feel something beyond grief. I feel ready. The sheriff's knock echoes in my chest long after he's gone, leaving me in the doorway clutching the manila envelope like it's radioactive. I already know what it is, but I open it anyway, because avoidance has never saved anyone. Emergency petition for guardianship. My parents' signatures. Victoria's, Melissa's. It's one thing to expect betrayal, another to see it notarized. The affidavits sting like salt. My father paints me as unable to manage household affairs. My mother laments my erratic emotions and claims I pose financial risks. Victoria doesn't even pretend compassion. Hers is clinical, a checklist of instability. And Melissa, 3 pages in her handwriting, describing the 3 a.m. calls, the sobbing in hospital hallways, the nights I forgot to eat. Memories that once proved friendship, now twisted into daggers. By the time I reach the kitchen table, I'm shaking. Angela bursts in through the back door, cheeks flushed from the cold. She sees the papers scattered like wreckage. They filed? I nod. Words are too fragile. She scans the affidavits, her lips thinning to a hard line. They've turned your love into evidence against you, but it won't stick, not with everything we've built. I choke on a laugh that isn't funny. Melissa knows the worst of me, and she gave it to them wrapped with a bow. Angela sets her hands on my shoulders, steady and firm. She gave them fragments. We'll give the court the whole picture. You fought for Caleb with everything you had. That isn't incompetence, it's devotion. That night, I can't sleep. Headlines glare from my phone screen. Family seeks help for grieving mother. A photo of my parents on their pristine sofa, sorrow etched into their carefully arranged faces. My father's quote bolded beneath. We only want what's best for our daughter. Social media drowns in sympathy for them. So brave. Mental health matters. Prayers for the family. Not one mention of the boy they skipped a funeral for. At 9:48 p.m., my doorbell camera pings. I freeze when I see Victoria on the porch, alone, her designer coat gleaming under the light. She glances at the camera, then smooths her hair. I hit record before opening the door with the chain still latched. What do you want? My voice is sharper than I intend. Can I come in, just to talk? Her tone is soft, rehearsed. No. Her smile falters. Solène, please, this doesn't have to be so public, so ugly. You made it public when you gave that interview. You made it ugly when you broke into Caleb's medical records. Her eyes flick to the camera, calculation flickering. I'm offering you one last chance to avoid embarrassment. Drop your opposition. Sign the trust over to me as administrator. We'll withdraw the petition, and no one has to know about your episodes. The word poisons the air. Episodes? I repeat. She leans closer. The night you called Melissa hysterical about Caleb's breathing. The time the hospital almost contacted child services because you missed a dosage. We'll destroy your reputation completely. Everyone will know how unstable you are. A strange calm settles over me. I think you should leave now, Victoria. Her mask slips. Rage flashes. You think you deserve that money? You were always the burden, the disappointment. Now it's time you finally did something for this family. I close the door, chain still latched, and watch her silhouette retreat. My hands don't shake this time. Within minutes, I forward the recording to Richard. He listens in silence, then exhales. Perfect. That's the mask off. Exactly what we needed. Angela arrives an hour later with an overnight bag. You shouldn't be alone. She sets a thermos of tea on the table and squeezes my hand. Tomorrow we show them what strength really looks like. Her presence steadies me more than she knows. I retreat into Caleb's room, holding his stuffed dinosaur against my chest. The glow-in-the-dark stars flicker above me. I open the locket around my neck, his smiling face peering out. Tomorrow's for you, I whisper. For your legacy, for the truth. And for the first time in weeks, sleep comes. Not peaceful, but purposeful. Morning breaks with a weight in my chest. The courthouse looms like a temple of judgment, its marble steps crowded with reporters. Richard meets me at the entrance, Angela on one side, Ethan's parents on the other. Together, they form a shield. Inside, the courtroom hums with tension. My family sits across the aisle, expressions choreographed. Sorrow, concern, righteous duty. Melissa keeps her eyes down, as if shame is still possible. "All rise," the bailiff calls. The Honorable Judge Marion Peabody enters, stern-faced, silver hair pulled tight. Her gaze sweeps the room like a blade. "These are serious allegations," she says, voice clipped. "I expect evidence, not emotion." I take a breath. My heart pounds, but my spine is steel. Because today isn't just about proving I'm fit. It's about proving who really abandoned Caleb. The gavel's sharp crack silences the room. Judge Peabody adjusts her glasses, eyes narrowing, as she studies the petitioner's table. My family looks like a portrait of concern. Victoria in a tailored suit, my parents dressed in somber grays, Melissa hunched small beside them. Their lawyer, Harrington, all slick hair and tailored arrogance, stands with the confidence of a man who has already rehearsed winning. "Your Honor," Harrington begins, voice dripping with solemnity, "this is not about money. It is about protecting a grieving mother who has tragically lost her way. My clients, her parents, her sister, and her lifelong friend, are simply asking this court to safeguard both Solène and the considerable assets in question. She has exhibited erratic behavior, unstable emotions, and troubling financial irresponsibility." His words feel like acid poured into old wounds. He calls Melissa first. She walks slowly, eyes fixed on the carpet, as if modesty could excuse betrayal. "Solène changed during Caleb's illness," she says softly. "She became paranoid. She called me at 3 a.m, crying that the doctors were missing something. She once forgot his medication schedule and panicked so badly the nurses almost called child services. I love her, but she's not capable of handling this alone." The words sting because they're true in fragments, but fragments without context are weapons. Harrington thanks her, then calls my mother. She dabs at tears with a lace handkerchief. "We are devastated by Caleb's passing," she begins, her voice quivering in perfect rhythm. "But watching our daughter unravel has been unbearable. This isn't about greed, it's about saving her from herself." I watch the judge lean forward slightly, her expression softening. Fear crawls cold up my spine. Then it's my father's turn. His voice carries the authority of decades of boardrooms. "Solène has always struggled with responsibility. We've stepped in countless times to prevent her mistakes. With grief clouding her judgment, she cannot manage something of this magnitude. We seek guardianship not to control her, but to protect her." Their performance is seamless, each lie lacquered with just enough truth to gleam. I feel the courtroom tilt, the judge weighing their words. Richard rises slowly. "Your Honor, what we are witnessing is not concern, it is calculation. The petitioners speak of protecting my client, yet not one of them attended her son's funeral. While she lowered her child into the ground, they raised champagne glasses at an engagement party." Gasps ripple through the gallery. Victoria stiffens. Richard continues, voice steady. "We will show that during Caleb's 18-month battle with a rare blood disorder, not one petitioner visited him in the hospital, not once. Meanwhile, Solène Vale documented every appointment, every treatment, every sleepless night by her son's side. We will also show evidence of their financial motives, home remodels, weddings, debts, each hinging on access to Caleb's trust." He calls the first witness, Catherine Winters, hospital administrator. A middle-aged woman with kind eyes takes the stand. "Our records show Ms. Victoria Vale accessed Caleb's full medical file 2 weeks ago, using an outdated emergency contact form. That is a serious privacy violation." Whispers spread like wildfire. Victoria's composure cracks, her lawyer shifting uncomfortably. Next, Angela. She sits tall, voice unwavering. "I was there, every day, every night. I brought meals, sat with Caleb when Solène hadn't slept, watched her fight for his care. She never faltered, not once. Grief doesn't make her unfit. It makes her human. And her family, they weren't there, not for a single transfusion, not for a single fever." Tears sting my eyes. Then Ethan's father, Robert, takes the stand. His voice is gravel, his grief genuine. "My son established that trust to protect Caleb. If the worst happened, it was to provide for Solène. He told me that himself. She sacrificed everything for that boy. She is the only one who should carry his legacy." Judge Peabody's gaze sharpens. Finally, Richard presses play on my recording. Victoria's voice fills the courtroom. "We'll destroy your reputation completely. Everyone will know how unstable you are. Gasps again. My father shifts in his chair. My mother covers her mouth. Melissa shrinks small. Then the next clip, our coffee shop meeting. My mother's voice clear as day. Once the guardianship is approved, we can settle Victoria's mortgage. Victoria's. And the beach house repairs. The contractor needs $50,000 by next month. My father. Once we have guardianship, we can use the money however we want. Solène won't have any say. The silence afterward is suffocating. Harrington fumbles with his papers, clearly unprepared for the bombshell. Judge Peabody leans back, her face unreadable, but her eyes blazing. We'll take a 15-minute recess, she announces, voice sharp. As the bailiff calls order, I glance at my family across the aisle. My mother's tears have turned frantic. My father's jaw is rigid. Victoria's face is pale beneath layers of powder. Melissa won't look at me at all. Angela squeezes my hand. You've turned the tide, dear. Richard leans close. This is far from over, but the truth is louder than their lies now. All you have to do is hold steady. For the first time in weeks, I believe him. The courtroom is hushed when Judge Peabody returns from recess. Her black robe rustles as she settles into her chair, eyes sweeping over both tables with a weight that presses the air thinner. She takes her time, arranging papers with deliberate care. Every second stretches like an hour. I have reviewed the evidence, she begins, voice calm but carrying iron beneath it. I have also listened closely to the testimony presented by both parties. What I see before me is not a family concerned for the welfare of their grieving daughter and sister. What I see is a coordinated attempt to exploit her vulnerability for financial gain. The words land like hammer blows. Victoria stiffens, lips parting to object, but the judge raises a hand. Do not speak. The gavel's authority is nothing compared to her tone. This court finds no basis for the emergency guardianship petition, Judge Peabody continues. In fact, I find the petitioner's conduct deeply disturbing. The petition is hereby dismissed with prejudice. It may not be refiled. My mother gasps. My father mutters something under his breath, jaw tight. Melissa's eyes brim with tears, though whether from shame or fear, I can't tell. But Judge Peabody is not finished. Furthermore, given the contradictions between sworn testimony and documentary evidence, I am ordering an investigation into possible perjury by Elaine and Charles Vale, as well as Ms. Bennett. I am also referring the matter of unauthorized access to confidential medical records to the hospital's ethics committee and state authorities. The sound that escapes Victoria is more a hiss than a word. She covers her mouth quickly, but the judge has already noticed. Silence, Judge Peabody snaps. One more outburst, and I will have you removed. For the first time, my sister, the one who has always been untouchable, always certain the world would bend for her, looks small. Judge Peabody's gaze softens as she turns to me. Ms. Vale, you have acted with remarkable strength and clarity during an unimaginable loss. Your son's memory is safe in your care. This court will also be issuing a restraining order. None of the petitioners may contact you directly for the foreseeable future. Her gavel falls. This hearing is adjourned. The room explodes into noise, reporters rustling, murmurs rising, my family scrambling. My mother reaches for me, tears streaking her face. Solène, wait, we didn't mean... The bailiff steps between us. Ma'am, you're under order. Please step back. Victoria tries to collect herself, smoothing her hair, but her fiancé isn't here today. For the first time, she looks like a queen without a throne. Melissa won't meet my eyes. When our gazes almost collide, she turns away, shoulders hunched, as if shrinking from her own shadow. Richard gathers the papers with methodical precision, his voice low beside me. It's over, for now. They can't touch the trust, and their credibility is shattered. Angela squeezes my hand, her eyes shining. You did it, dear. You kept your promise. Outside, the courthouse steps are crowded with reporters, cameras flashing, microphones thrust toward me, voices overlapping. Ms. Vale, how do you feel about the ruling? Do you think your family will face charges? What's next for Caleb's legacy? A month ago, I would have ducked my head and fled. But today, I straighten my shoulders, clutch the locket at my throat, and meet the nearest microphone. Today, I say, my voice steady, justice was done for my son. Cameras click, flashes burst, but I don't flinch. I feel Caleb with me, the weight of his action figure still in my pocket, the echo of his bravery steadying my breath. That evening, Ethan's parents sit in my kitchen with Angela. all of us around the table that once groaned under piles of hospital bills. Martha reaches across, clasping my hand. You honored him today, Solène. You honored Ethan, too. He would be proud of the woman who stood her ground. George nods, his own eyes glassy. We'll help however we can. His legacy doesn't end with the ruling. It begins there. I look at them, at Angela with her steadfast journals, at Richard, who has already called twice to confirm next legal steps. And I realize family isn't blood. It's loyalty. It's presence. It's the people who stayed. Later that night, I sit at Caleb's desk. His crayons are still in the tin, some worn to stubs. I pick up a drawing of him in a superhero cape, me plus mom, scrawled in childish letters beneath two stick figures. You see, buddy, I whisper, tears sliding silently down my cheeks. They couldn't take you from me. Not your memory, not your legacy. It's safe. It's ours. The stars on his ceiling glow faintly, as if answering. Tomorrow, I will begin building something new. Something that carries his name beyond court filings and legal jargon. A foundation. A legacy that breathes. But tonight, I allow myself the rarest gift of all. Peace. 6 months later, I stand in a hospital corridor that no longer feels like a battlefield. The pediatric blood disorder unit has been repainted, walls awash with bright sea creature murals, windows edged with cheerful decals. The plaque near the nurse's station reads in polished bronze, the Caleb Vale Memorial Wing. I trace the letters with my fingertips, my throat thick. The air here still hums with the beeping of monitors and the shuffle of nurses' shoes, but it feels lighter than it ever did when Caleb was fighting. Lighter because his presence has been transformed into something enduring. A young nurse approaches, clutching a folder. Ms. Vale, I'm Jennifer Abrams. I'm the first Caleb Vale scholar. I just wanted to say thank you. Her eyes shine as she explains how the scholarship is funding her specialization in pediatric hematology. Your son's story inspired me. I want to be the kind of doctor who fights for children the way you fought for him. Tears prick, but they don't fall. For the first time, I can smile when someone says his name. He would have loved that, I say softly. Caleb wanted to be a doctor himself one day. Jennifer beams before hurrying off, and I linger in the hallway, letting the reality sink in. The trust that my family tried to hijack is now a living promise. The Caleb's legacy. Foundation has grown beyond my imagining. Angela coordinates volunteers, meals, transportation, childcare for families trapped in endless hospital cycles. Ethan's parents spearhead a grandparent advocacy program, teaching others how to navigate the system. Richard manages the legal side pro bono, ensuring every cent remains protected. Already, 3 families have received emergency housing assistance. 2 nurses have begun fellowships funded in Caleb's name. Parents speak at board meetings with tears in their eyes, thanking us for easing burdens that once felt unbearable. And me? I've learned to speak too, not just in court, not just in anger, but in purpose. At support groups, I tell new parents, the first step is believing you can do this. The second is knowing you don't have to do it alone. Every time I say those words, I think of the hospital nights when I thought I was alone, when Caleb's small hand in mine was the only anchor keeping me from collapse. Now I see those anchors multiplied, in every volunteer, every donor, every nurse carrying his story forward. But the past doesn't vanish. The restraining order still holds. My parents live quietly now, under investigation for perjury. Victoria's engagement collapsed when her fiancé saw the court recordings splashed across news feeds. Melissa lost her job after her testimony went viral, colleagues whispering the word perjury in office halls. I thought I'd feel satisfaction. Instead, I feel distance, as if their downfall is a movie playing in another room. They tried to erase me, erase Caleb, but in the end, they erased themselves. On the 1-year anniversary of the funeral, I return to the cemetery. The path feels different under my feet. Not a march toward unbearable grief, but a pilgrimage toward connection. The morning sun warms the granite of his headstone. I place fresh flowers beside it. Then I reach into my pocket and set down his action figure, the one I almost buried with him but couldn't bear to part with. Its cape is still chipped, its paint faded, but it feels holy. I kept my promise, buddy, I whisper. Your legacy is safe, stronger than ever. A voice calls behind me. A woman approaches, holding the hand of a little girl with wide brown eyes. Excuse me, are you Solène Vale? I nod, wary but curious. My name's Sarah Mitchell. This is my daughter, Emma. She was diagnosed with the same condition Caleb had. The specialist funded by your scholarship found a treatment that worked when nothing else did. Her eyes glisten. Your son's legacy saved her life. Emma steps forward shyly. Thank you for helping me get better. I kneel, meeting her gaze. The future shines in her small smile, a future my son didn't get but somehow gave to another. You're very welcome, sweetheart, I whisper, my own smile breaking through tears. As they leave, I stay a little longer, the breeze stirring the grass. For the first time since Caleb's diagnosis, I don't feel like I'm drowning. I feel anchored, transformed. Because betrayal, as devastating as it was, didn't define me. Love did. Family isn't blood. It's choice, loyalty, presence. And mine, Angela, Ethan's parents, Richard, every nurse and parent and child touched by Caleb's legacy, is stronger than any bond my parents ever pretended to offer. I rise from the graveside, sunlight warm on my shoulders, and walk back toward my car. Sometimes I think the deepest wounds carve the path for the strongest legacies, and Caleb's is just beginning.